Morning, everyone. Or should I say good afternoon or good evening? I guess it all depends on when you're watching this. But anyways, today I have the privilege of bringing you a Sunday school lesson that I figured I would deliver on a platform that I've been using out of my basement for weeks. It's a thing called Zoom. You've probably all heard about it. Well, in doing so, I'll give you a small idea what takes place when I have to conduct a Zoom meeting for my students in school. So today, if everything goes right, I will begin the process here. Start the process, and you look here at the title, you see COVID-19 and its other effects. It's something that's affecting all of our lives. Or should I say COVID-7, the amount of pounds I put on since all this all began. Well, today, what I'd like to do is think about this, you know, and if I move this up so we can all see it here, things I never thought I would have to do. So when we look at this, if I go to the first bullet, you know, I look at this and I never thought I'd have to do this. I've already said about it. I'm getting pretty good at it as far as making everything happen. But for 33 years of teaching, I never thought I would be teaching live classes from my house. It's what I have to do to keep the educational process going. Do I like it? No. I miss the personal interaction. What else don't I like? Well, all this stuff that goes along with the COVID-19, all the new rules, regulations, all these things, all the stuff that we're worried about, and I'm not sure. It's changed my habits and my patterns when I'm out. It's the whole new socialization process. I never once before worried about what I touched in school or who I was around. I figured if I got sick, it was just my time. I think this is pretty much self-explanatory. I mean, that's what I had to do last week at church at the early service. And, and who would ever thought that we've ever would have said this, think that there's so too much family time. I mean, I do think this every once in a while when the girls and I get on each other's nerves. And the last thing here on my list is guess what items I'm going to be able to purchase at the grocery store on that particular day? Who cares about the toilet paper? Why can't I ever find any tub butter except for those huge containers? So when we look at this, I think I can summarize my things that I never thought I would have to do with one example. And so what I'll do here is stop sharing. I'll go full screen again. And I'm going to relate a story here. Like I said, I think I can sum up everything. The girls and I were looking for something to do on a Sunday afternoon a couple of weeks ago. So we decided to go to town to get a bite to eat and pick up a few groceries. I pulled into the parking lot, went to put on my trusty N95 mask that I found out in the shop, and realizing I only had one of the two blue straps left, I gingerly put the mask on, only to have it snap as I was putting it around my ear. This was the only mask we had on us. The girls suggested I use my hanky. That wasn't the best idea, considering I was using it to blow my nose. No problem. I would just take the time to fix both of the straps by undoing the staples and clamping the straps back into place. So I did that. Had it all fixed up, jumped out of the van, started making my way to the entrance while putting my mask on when the first band broke. Now, there was no need to panic because I had another strap left. I slowly put that band around my head. I made it to the entrance of the store and it broke. What was I going to do? Here's the culprit, the good old N95. What was I going to do? No problem. They all have this bendable thing. So here I am, getting to the point. And what do? I put it on my face and this is what I figure I can do. And that's what I did. So I entered the store. There to greet me was a Giant Eagle employee. I knew something wasn't right because she didn't tell me good afternoon. Instead, she told me I can't come in this way. I proceeded to tell her that I didn't see anything about this being an exit. Then she proceeded to tell me that I walked right past the sign. Out the door I went, telling myself there wasn't any sign. That's when I noticed the big sign that said exit only. Now, how did I miss that? If I would have been one of my students, I would have growled at them for not paying attention. Then I thought a little bit and it dawned on me that's where my second strap broke on my mask and it fell onto the ground. And that's when I was trying to bend the frame as I entered the door. Okay, so everything was okay. I went around the front of the store and entered the proper door and started making my way through the store. I had 3 items to get that day: a container of Quaker oats, eggs, and bread. Carrie Beth always taught me to look at the signs to find the items I was looking for. I started looking. Quaker oats. There was no sign it had Quaker's oats on it. I had no clue where they were at. I would have to find it the old-fashioned way. Walk the aisles until you find what you're looking for. I started up the first aisle that I came to that looked like it had oats in, and I started getting these funny looks from the people coming the other direction. Now, what was wrong? That's right. I was going the wrong way on a one-way aisle. I noticed the sticker on the floor as I was picking up my mask that had just fallen off my nose. I didn't really think this mask thing through. As long as I was looking up or straight ahead, my mask stuck like glue. As soon as I looked down, it fell off. I continued on. I found those oats. Of course, they were on the bottom shelf, but I was able to hold on to my mask and the container at the same time. However, I didn't have enough hands to hold the mask, the oats, and the phone to call Carrie Beth to figure out what oats to buy. Who knew that there were regular and instant oats? 2 items left. Where were the eggs? I followed the coolers around the corner and found no eggs. I repeated this process a couple times, hoping the eggs would appear, but they didn't. I would have to swallow my pride and ask a neighboring customer. There were 2 people to choose from, a man and a woman. You know who I chose to ask? I chose to ask the missus. She directed me to the eggs, which were about 50 feet away, and as I was leaving, I knew I made the good choice because as I was leaving, the gentleman thanked her also because he was looking for the eggs too. I was done. I wanted to get out of there, but I needed bread. Where was this bread? I was at the end of the store and I hadn't seen any bread. Bread should always be the last thing in the cart so you don't smash it. I wasn't asking anyone where the bread was. I swallowed my pride once, not again this day. I finally found it over by the pharmacy. That is such a great place to have the bread. But anyways, enough said on that. I was done. I had enough of the grocery store. I needed to check out and go home for another week. I decided to do the self-checkout line. Why? I don't know. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was having trouble getting my Giant Eagle card to register from my phone screen when a nice lady started to come up over to help me. When I looked down at the screen, you can guess what happened. My mask fell off. That ended the help for me. That employee wasn't coming anywhere close to me again. 6 feet was too close. I was on my own. I finally stuck the mask in my pocket, checked out, and left as soon as I could. I felt naked as I walked out of the store with no mask on. I'm sure they shut that register down for a mandatory cleaning after I left. Without the COVID crisis, would have I had to call Carrie Beth about the oats? Yes. Ask where the eggs were? Yeah. Would I have known where the bread was? No. I got all wound up over things that were new and somewhat out of my control. Many things are out of our control with this pandemic, and with life in general. Nothing about my story is life-threatening, but it has made me look at myself and my surroundings once again, like I had to do a few years ago when Carrie Beth was struggling with her brain tumor. Everyone has to face decisions daily that are either a cause of their own or caused by someone or something that they have no control over. These problems come in all kinds and severities, and we need to be continually reminded that we can face all things through Jesus. Many people deal with issues, challenges, stress, pressure in different ways. And that brought me to the verses outlined in James that state, and if you give me a minute here, we'll go back. See, technology it doesn't always work the way it was supposed to be, huh? And I want to look at this. It's from James 1, verses 2 through 3. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. So what is perseverance? So when we look here at perseverance, perseverance is a continued effort to do or achieve something despite difficulties, failure, or opposition. So, if we read this verse again, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And if we follow it up with verse 4 says, let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. This got me thinking again. Were there any positive items that stood out to me from this pandemic that were worth mentioning? Surprisingly, it didn't take long to list a few. So let's think about this. What are some of the positives that came out of this? Or are there any positives? So I look at this communication. When I look at my classrooms and I look at my classes and the students, I have the students that sat in the seats when I was in front of them, and now I have them sitting pretty much what you're looking at. You see that little window right now that I'm talking through. And when I work with my students and I share things, I see a whole bunch of students on the side. So now they're just sitting there. And, I had students who would barely talk to me at school who are now asking me questions through emails. I just have to be willing to answer them on their time. The kids' daily routine is totally flopped. They are up late and then they sleep most of the morning away. They're ready to talk to me between the hours of 5 and 10 p.m. But you know what? They're communicating, something that they didn't do with me before. I look at this. The girls are telling me sometimes my reactions aren't the same to certain events. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, for instance, the other day I came home to the girls sitting on the pitching carpet, not doing anything. Now, realize when I left, they were supposed to be pitching and taking care of everything. Something didn't seem right. It was really strange when they came right over to the truck to greet me. Realize the dog's the only one that does that anymore. That's when I proceeded to hear how we no longer have a basement window. 16 years came and went at the King household, and we never broke a window playing softball. Ironically, I just made the decision that morning not to replace them at the basement windows when I replaced the house windows. A couple days later, Caitlin commented about how well I took the news. Or I think of another example that just happened last week. I was coming out of the dentist office with Natalie in hand after her wisdom teeth were taken out, to discover a lady looking into the back seat of my car at Carrie Beth. And I came to discover she was getting ready to discuss the big scrape mark that she put in the side of my car. I surprised myself with my reaction. It wasn't a big deal. Took the information, got in, we drove home. Maybe it was because I knew I had more time down the road to deal with it than during a normal year. Now, I do got to admit, I wasn't as patient with my response to Caitlin after she dumped most of the blueberry cobbler in the back of my truck that Mom made for us to eat. And I didn't handle that very well. But, when I think about that situation and I look at this next thing, I think certain aspects of life have slowed down. And, when I think that's the biggest difference. It definitely influenced my reaction with the car. I think things aren't as stressful sometimes. I mean, there's different things that are, but things just don't seem like they're influencing me the same way. I don't think, now don't get me wrong, I don't think time is slowing down, but it's amazing. I think we just have more discretionary time. It's amazing what time I gained with the halt of softball season. I know Caitlin is disappointed and the summer schedule is still up in the air for both of the girls, but I forgot how much time is dedicated to that sport. It's enabled us as a family to sit down and eat meals together again. With both girls home and with my class schedule, we are able to sit down at the table and eat both lunch and supper together. It's been a long time since that's happened at such a consistent level. Another thing I thought of, And if Dad was still alive, he just may be able to sit up by the garage and watch me mow now. Right now I don't have to worry about falling off the seat as I mow the side of Mom's hill. I've slowed down some because I don't have to be somewhere else 10 minutes ago. But you know what? Now that I think about it, I'm probably still, if Dad was alive, I'm probably still going too fast to suit him, but that's another story. But anyways, I know this is occurring everywhere. That day that I had the grocery store experience, we stopped at McDonald's and got our food and decided to eat it in the parking lot below the establishment. It was warm that day, and I had no sooner rolled the windows down when several blue birds flew in from somewhere and sat there looking at us for some handouts. Birds just don't do that unless they're being fed constantly. There must be other people that are doing that. They must have the time to sit in the parking lot and feed the birds. Just while we were sitting there eating our food, 3 other cars did the same thing and started feeding the birds French fries. So this all leads to quality time spent with the girls. We've played games, we've watched movies, we've argued, we've fought with each other, but it is time that we normally wouldn't have. Natalie was just beginning her journey of leaving the nest, and that was hard for Carrie Beth and I, but we gained a lot of quality time that we didn't count on. So I want to define this word endurance: the ability to withstand hardship or adversity, the ability to sustain a prolonged, stressful effort or activity. Sometimes life brings us situations that we have to work on our endurance to be able to get through them. Whether it be during this pandemic or a situation that you're dealing with at the present time. Remember, God is always with you. And I would like to close with these words found in Romans 5, verses 3 through 4. We can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they help us develop endurance. Endurance develops strength of character, and character strengthens our confident hope of salvation. As you go into the next week and into the coming weeks, I'd just like you to remember that God hasn't promised us the life of ease, but trials and temptations we face are put there for us to work on our endurance and perseverance so that your character strengthens and you may become more mature and complete to ultimately boost our hope of salvation. And that's the way I'd like to close. Think about all the stresses and trials and struggles that you have. And think about what good can come out of them. Be patient. Ask God to be there for you. And that's the way I'd like to close today. So let's bow for a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for this time. Sometimes we don't want to thank you for our trials and tribulations and our struggles and everything, but we know that we have to go through them, and we just ask that you will be with us, and we will ask for your help and guidance. We know that you'll help us get through them, and we hope that when all this pandemic and everything settles back down and life gets back to normal, hopefully I can say that I remembered some of the things, maybe we can get some more meal times in there that we didn't actually have before. Or maybe, hopefully we can realize that time needs to slow down, that these things are important that we're doing right now. And we're only going to be able to do that with your help. We just ask all these things in your name. Amen. Thank you. And for the most part, this is the way it ends, with a wave goodbye, and I'll see you when I see you.